People who have hooked up others with a massive age gap between you. How did that happen? Hi Reddit guys. Subscribe now, or I will go down. Just got laid off from my job. Freshly split with my wife. Super heartbroken and unsure about my future and my life. Went to the golf course to watch some playoff hockey with my dad and brother. There was this gorgeous, Shrexy MILF that served there, and since basically everyone in my town was out of work, the place was packed. I was super attracted to her, but because she was being hit on by nearly 50 other men, I didn't even bother to, because I could tell she was done with being hit on at that point. I had talked to her before and we got along quite well, so we did kinda know each other. Anyways, turned out to be a great night. Had fun with my family and some friends. The hockey team we were cheering for won their playoff game and we ended up staying until closing. Almost everyone left, including my dad and brother. I hadn't drank that much, so I was sober. But there were about 6 people lingering around with obvious intentions to try to go home with her. I paid my bill and said goodbye when she asked if I'd stay until she closed up to walk her to her car. I told her I'd be happy to. So I helped her clean a few tables while she was cashing out and kicking out the last 6 or so patrons who were laying it on thick, trying to convince her to come home with them. They all eventually left. She asked for a ride home. We got in my truck. She asked if I wanted to hang out a bit. We went back to my house and for the next couple months we hooked up as much as physically possible. It was the best couple months I had had in years. We got along, laughed, cuddled, and just enjoyed each other for a few months before we both moved away from town. Was mutual and fantastic. 10 out of 10. Cuddled. So you had Shreks, or? How old was she? Yup, as much as physically possible for a few months. She was about 45 and I was about 25. She was in her mid 50s. I was in my late 20s. We met through a couple who we were both, separately, very close to, so we were continually running into each other socially, and every time we did we had a blast. Then I was badly injured in a construction accident at the same time she lost an eye due to a detached retina that went very wrong. Neither one of us was in a condition where we could recuperate safely alone, but in a sort of the lame leading the blind manner way we could get by. So we spent a lot of time healing together and really coming to understand each other. She was a great cook, and I lived on 7-Eleven burritos and salad bars. So one day I asked her to show me some basic kitchen moves. We had some wine, cooked, had some more wine, and then, we spent 25 years together, and, I suppose, there was always a little of the thought, what the % are we doing? And we did try to separate several times. I've never wanted children, or cared about a typical family, so I don't feel I gave up anything. I suppose there was some kind of dependence issue on both our parts, but I wonder if dependence, mutual support might be part of what makes great relationships. I can't emphasize this too strongly. We had a wonderful time. Perhaps by some measures we weren't very responsible, but I have no regrets. She was ill the last few years with Alzheimer's and I did my best to care for her. That was hard, but it made me a better person. And dementia took her away more gently than it does most people, so even that had its good aspects. We all have to age physically, but a few of us get to stay youthful in our outlook and attitudes, and in our ability to love. I believe there's a degree of choice in this. She never really let age diminish her. I was a lucky guy. That was so beautifully written. Thank you for sharing. Not to take away from your story, but now I'm curious how things went as you both aged, you in your 40s, here in her 70s. I'm sure the comments got old, but was it obvious you were together? I delivered her newspaper and went to collect for the money and she apparently didn't have any. Instead invited me in and gave 22-year-old me the hour of a lifetime. Margaret was 58. So that's what Margaret Thatcher did on weekends. 6:30 am. Wake. 7 am. Downstairs for morning coffee. 7:30 am. Shag the frick out of the wee paper boy. 8:30 am. 11 pm. Funnel money into illegal paramilitary death squads in Northern Ireland. 11:30 pm. Bed. 5:30. Jazzercise. 6:30. Dinner with me. I can't cancel that again. Old rich Jewish lady hit on me as I was bringing groceries to my car. Guess she likes young black men. She helped pay off my student loans. Get a sugar mama. How old? 69. Nisui. That wasn't op. I sort of fooled around with a professor once. I'm a male, she's female. It was a practical class that she taught and we had a lot of one-on-one time with her. I was having a lot of problems with a single aspect of my work, but she said it was otherwise some of the top stuff in her class. We got along really well, joking and playful teasing. She was circa 40-45, I was 20. She kept office hours on Fridays from 3-5 p.m. I had to talk to her about an assignment that I did really poorly on. I went to see her and discussing it. She said, "Okay, let's sit down and rework some parts here." So sitting side by side we worked on it, each doing a piece and leaning over each other. There was a strange moment where we made eye contact, and she leaned in. We kissed and started making out pretty passionately. She started feeling me up and I did the same. She put her hand on my junk, through my jeans, and pulled back. She said something like, "Oh no. We can't do this. Oh god. I'm sorry." I said sorry. She said, No, it's my fault." We just kind of sat there for a while in awkward silence. I broke the silence and said, "Look, I can see how this might be a bad situation for you. I just want you to know I won't tell anyone, okay? We'll just pretend this didn't happen. I don't want to frick over your career." Which I didn't. She was a great professor. She said thanks. I left. We didn't work as closely anymore, but she still marked me fairly. We didn't talk about it again. This reminds me of Shameless, except you didn't continue on with the act. I knew it was gonna happen, but I was still furious when college got fricked for lip. So the theme seems to be older women love younger men. Or younger men love saying they banged older women and don't care to tell people about the time they fricked a young girl. Yep. The creep factor comes into play big time depending on the age of the girl in question. I can't lie, maybe it's because I'm only mid-20s right now, but if I end up 50 and single, there's a 0% chance I wouldn't have Shreks with a hot 20-year-old. They know what they're doing. I don't think that's morally wrong or anything. It's just one of those things that you couldn't be too surprised at people judging you for. She had a crush on me. I thought she was very hot, but holy shoot, she was at least a decade older than me. How intimidating. I asked her to join me at a bar for karaoke night. We just talked that night. The next week, she invited me over to her place to watch the first GOP nomination debate for the then upcoming 2016 election. Somehow, romance still bloomed. She hit on me some more, but holy shoot, she's at least a decade older than me. Eventually, we kept glancing at each other until she leaned over and kissed me. I kissed back, and she crawled on my lap and took her shirt off, and it went from there. Almost 3 years later, we're getting married this April. Found the president of France, guys. Not him. Only 10 years and she wasn't his teacher. So, how about you tell us the interesting detail? If you must know, I went down on her. Then we fricked. Happy? In college I went to a bar that attracted an older crowd to watch a friend's band play there. I was 21 at the time. Most people there were late 30s, early 40s. Was wandering around casually taking to people. Talked to a 40-something for a while. To my surprise she invited me back to her place. Drunk me said yes. She still had it for 40 plus. I stayed over that night. The next morning as I was leaving I crossed paths with her son in the kitchen as I was walking out. He was about my age. He stood there confused for a second. I saw it in his face the moment he realized what happened. I turned and walked to the front door and he yelled, "Really bro?" I smirked, shrugged, then opened the door and left. You fricked his mum, dude. That guy will go through life knowing that there is a non-zero chance anyone telling him he fricked his mum online might not be lying. My fricking dad does that when we play Overwatch. Like, I know it's true, but you don't have to put that image in my head. Your dad is a ruthless competitor, using that psychological attack to get an edge on the younger player. With a mindset that cutthroat, it's no wonder he freaking rails your mum on the reg. Hooked up with a guy who was 24 years older than me. I'm in my 20s. We worked together and got on together well. It started with friendly lunches, turned into attraction. I didn't find him physically attractive at first. He was 6 inches shorter than me and kinda pudgy. His personality more than made up for it, and over time, it changed his looks in my eyes and I became physically attracted to him. He appreciated me. He genuinely listened to me, made me feel like the most beautiful woman in the world. He was fun to talk to, always had funny stories. The age difference never bothered me. I could always feel eyes on us when we went out and showed any PDA. Funny how the men would always be the ones to stir. Women just looked at me like a good digger. In the bedroom, he had a small dong, but always made sure I was taken care of with oral and his hands. When you have only had young guys pound on you like a jackrabbit, having someone slow down was a fantastic change. He spoiled me, from beginning to end. We eventually stopped seeing each other, because we wanted different things in life. He had never been married or had kids, and that is something that I wanted in my life. The split was harder on me, I think, but I moved on and have the life I had always wanted. I hope he is the same. As a guy that's getting older, it's nice to hear that pounding like a jackrabbit isn't always required. Usually not desired unless requested. Very tortoise and hare in a lot of cases. The ones who take it slowly and thoughtfully definitely leave an impression. It's timing and context. If jackhammer is their only move and it happens immediately, it's pretty obvious they have no clue what they're doing. They probably think peen is a how-to video, instead of the joke it actually is. I think I'd punch a guy in the dong if he started slapping my bean like most of these stupid videos like to do now. My husband is 15 years older than me, and thankfully didn't get his moves from peen. There's a lot to be said for age and experience. You wanted a family, he wanted to just not die in 10 years. Makes sense, P. Okay Reddit guys, subscribe now, or I will go down.